In 2 days, the King of England will walk into the White House. It will be the first time a British monarch has made a state visit to the United States in 19 years. The last time it happened, Queen Elizabeth Roman II was on the throne, George W. Bush was in the Oval Office, and the world was a very different place. This week is not that week. This week, King Charles Roman III arrives in a Washington that is tense, fractured, and already talking about his family, not because of him, but because of the two men who share his bloodline. One of them is his younger son, who, 24 hours ago, stood above a mass grave in Ukraine, called himself a working royal, and started a diplomatic incident with the president he's about to visit. The other is his only brother, whose name keeps appearing in congressional hearings about the most notorious sex trafficker in American history. This is the week that could define, or destroy, the British monarchy's relationship with America, and it starts right now. Let's start with the basics. What is actually happening this week? Between April 27th and April 30th, King Charles and Queen Camilla will travel to 3 American cities: Washington, D.C., New York, and Virginia. The program is extraordinary. On the 27th, Monday, they arrive in Washington for a formal military review and a garden ceremony at the White House. On the 28th, Charles will address a joint meeting of the United States Congress, only the second British monarch to ever do so. The first was his mother, Queen Elizabeth Roman II, in 1991. That was 35 years ago. That same evening, a state banquet at the White House, hosted by Donald Trump and Melania. In New York, they will visit the September 11 memorial. In Virginia, they attend the 250th anniversary celebrations of American independence. On paper, this is a triumph of the so-called special relationship, two old allies reinforcing their bond in a moment of global uncertainty. But nothing about this visit is straightforward, and the complications did not begin this week. They have been building for months. Here's the problem that Buckingham Palace has been navigating in silence for weeks. The state visit was planned as a celebration, but the world did not cooperate with the planning. In the months since it was announced, Trump has publicly and repeatedly attacked British Prime Minister Keir Starmer over the Iran war. The UK's refusal to
Well, let me
fully
say a
back
number
the
of things in
American
response to that.
position created real
Firstly,
friction,
NATO
enough
is the
that several
single most
British
effective
MPs
military
called for the
alliance
visit
the
to be
world has
cancelled.
ever seen.
Some questioned whether
And it has
Charles should
kept
be
us
sitting at
safe
Trump's table while
for
the two
many
governments were
decades,
barely
and
speaking.
we are fully committed.
And here is Charles's impossible position. As monarch, he is constitutionally required to remain above politics. He cannot speak for the government. He cannot criticize Trump. He cannot defend Starmer. He is, in the words of the BBC journalist who covered this visit in advance, required to do heavy diplomatic lifting, using his presence, his history, his relationships, to repair something he is not allowed to acknowledge is broken. ITV's royal editor called this the most risky diplomatic trip of Charles's reign so far. And that was before Harry went to Ukraine. On Thursday, April 23rd, Prince Harry arrived in Kiev on an overnight train from Poland, unannounced. This was his third visit to Ukraine since the invasion. At the Kiev Security Forum, he called Vladimir Putin by name. He invoked the Budapest Memorandum, the treaty where Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons in exchange for security guarantees from America. He called for American leadership on Ukraine. He did not say Donald Trump's name. He did not need to. That evening, at the White House, a journalist asked Trump about Harry's remarks. Trump said, "Prince Harry is not speaking for the UK, that's for sure. I think I am speaking for the UK more than Prince Harry. How's he doing? How's his wife?" The next morning, in Bucha, at a church that sits above a mass grave, Harry gave an ITV interview. He was asked if he recognized the phrase "not a working royal." He said no. He said, "I will always be part of the royal family. I'm here working, doing the very thing I was born to do." He was then asked directly, "Do you think your words in Ukraine will affect your father's state visit to America?" Harry said, "No, I don't think so. Not at all." The palace said nothing, which is, in palace language, an answer of its own. There is a third name in this story that nobody in the palace wants to say out loud. Prince Andrew, now formally known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor after being stripped of his royal titles in 2025, was arrested in February of this year by Thames Valley Police on suspicion of misconduct in public office. He was released under investigation after nearly 10 hours in custody. Members of the United States Congress have sought his testimony about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. He has not responded. Virginia Gifford, who accused Andrew of sexual assault, died last year at age 41. Her family has publicly urged King Charles to meet with them during this Washington visit. Charles's lawyers declined. Buckingham Palace issued a rare, detailed statement explaining that any such meeting risked interfering with ongoing police proceedings. US Congressman Roe O'Connor responded on social media, writing that the palace's refusal was an opportunity missed, that the monarchy could either be a relic of colonialism or a modern force for human rights. That statement will follow Charles into every room he enters in Washington this week. One final detail that has not received the attention it deserves. King Charles and Queen Camilla will travel through Washington, New York, and Virginia over 4 days. Harry and Meghan live in California. Buckingham Palace has confirmed the king is not expected to meet his younger son during this visit. Harry last saw his father in September 2025. His relationship with Prince William remains publicly estranged, with no confirmed contact in years. And now, in the same week that Charles is attempting the most important diplomatic visit of his reign, Harry is dominating the headlines in the exact same country, having just irritated the man Charles is about to sit down with. Whether that is coincidence or something more deliberate is a question worth asking. What we know for certain is this: the royal family has not looked this complicated or this consequential in years. We started this video with King Charles preparing to walk into the White House. By the time that happens, by the time he sits across from Donald Trump, by the time he addresses the United States Congress, every complication we have talked about today will be in the room with him. Harry's words from Ukraine, Andrew's shadow from Washington hearings, the diplomatic tension between two governments that are supposed to be the closest allies on earth. Charles cannot speak to any of it. That is the monarchy's greatest strength and, this week, possibly its greatest vulnerability. If you want to follow what happens next, day by day, as it unfolds, subscribe. We will be covering this all week. And leave one comment for me. Do you think the state visit will actually repair the special relationship or make things worse? I'll be in the comments reading every response. I'll see you in the next one.